All right, so I'd like to welcome Breanne Casteel today on the Blueprints for Success. I'm super excited what she has to share. Not only a very experienced business analyst and a speaker at many conferences, but also transitioned into business architecture fairly recently. So Breanne has some great, relevant, up-to-date insight as to what that might mean for the general public. So welcome, Breanne. It's great
Thank
to have
you.
you here. All right, so before we go into all the worky, boring stuff, maybe let's just talk about you and what your history is. What have you discovered over the years? Where did your journey start?
My journey, actually, I came up through tech, which I know not a lot of business architects and business analysts do, but I did. An interesting fact is that even though I graduated in computer science, I have not coded a day in my life since I
Wow.
graduated. So I think that was really helpful though for me as I started getting into it after college. I wanted to work with the people aspect of it. So I actually started in tech support and more database and whatnot. And I really liked hearing from people that gave me the go between programmers because I still worked with the programmers for the improvements that we had to make in our software. But I was able to learn at a young age, I'll say, that you don't get defensive when people say, I don't like the software, it should do this instead of this, because our initial reaction is, this is my baby, my software works good. But instead, listen to them and hear a need and then work with the developer. So I was actually doing that in tech support when I started. So that gave me a really good background I go to. Then I moved into QA. I wanted a difference. So I started testing and our CIO at the time actually found out the questions that I was asking and the issues, if you will, that I was bringing up in testing were too late in the process. So he told me about, hey, there's this thing called business analysis. Have you heard of it? And of course, I hadn't. So
Mhm.
then learned about business analyst and took that thought, that mindset to the forefront of software development and working with the stakeholders. And I loved business analysis. Then I got into agile analysis certification and learning that piece. Started learning more about strategy analysis, which that led me to, oh, we have a missing piece here that the bigger the strategic, the alignment, why are we doing stuff, all the big questions, that's missing. So that led me to business architecture because I think strategy analysis and business architecture go pretty well together. So then I started diving into that, proposed that to our organization, and now I've been business architect for about a year.
Okay. Congratulations on your new role. Congratulations on your learning and certification and your just desire to really embrace the field fully. So that's a great achievement and in such a short period of time, which I think is fantastic. So well done, you. Just a question. So, what do you think? I know you've discussed what your journey in terms of how you've learned and how you've adapted your career over the years. What do you think were key experiences or turning points, particularly working with people, to really get you to decide where you want to go in your future?
That's a great question. First, overarching over everything is really having a growth mindset because I've never wanted to be stagnant. There always had to be something else. If you're not learning and growing, then you're actually falling behind. So that was a major just thing that I always do. The major turning points for me were feeling the frustration of what I was doing or what others around me in our department or business or whatnot was feeling at the time, no matter where I was at, and going, there has to be a better way. What is it? I didn't know. And so I was really lucky. Like I said, our CIO at the time, he knew business analysis was a thing. So he brought that to me. Business architecture, I had to go out, figure that out, see what it is. I wanted to implement strategy analysis at our company, um, but it wasn't really that. It was going to be business architecture. So those were the turning points of just finding a need that people didn't even know that they were expressing that was there, just hearing it and then acting on it, seeing what can we do? Who needs to do it?
So when you heard the term, we're going to go with business architecture, did that kind of resonate with you immediately, or did you have to try figure out what it was that was meant by that?
No, I remember one of my colleagues when I was a business analyst go, I've heard from a leadership meeting that they're throwing around the term business architecture. Have you heard of that? Is that what you're talking about that's missing? I have no idea what that is. So I had to go and research it. They go, oh, yeah, I could do that. All right, let's learn more about that and propose that I could be the one to do it.
Mm.
No, I had to go figure it out.
Okay. And then, in your own words, how would you describe the importance of business architecture in a business today? You've obviously been, I know, as a BA, projects do well, projects fail, things scope creep, requirements aren't fully met. So, considering business architecture, and I'm not implying it's a silver bullet here, what do you see what it can help organizations with in the future or even today?
Yeah, how you said as a business analyst things, and that is absolutely true that you're I love you had Roger on, right? About the
Yeah.
dots, the collecting, correcting, connecting. And it's so true that I even experienced it that organizations are really good about correcting dots. They're
Mhm.
really good about prioritizing work and getting it done, but then it's not always. It feels like there's hair on fire at times. And so when you're in the delivery phase, for example, you're always reacting to those high priority issues that keep coming up. And why? Didn't they know we're already working on this, trying to figure out help this need? So they're good at correcting them. But business architecture can really say, okay, before we say we're going to go, and knee jerk react, as some people would say. Is this the best way? Is this aligned to our objectives? If we go down this road, what else are we doing that it may impact? What are we going to have to shuffle and move? A big one for me was resource planning. That was a huge one that it helped see, okay, we have these departments working over here. And so often they would just get bombarded with work and more put on their plate, then nothing would get done, right? There's too much work in progress, nothing would actually complete. So that's been a major shift of how business architecture can help. Also, where I saw I wanted to make the change, of course, because I worked with IT, is in the IT space and the transparency of the business rules between it all. The reuse is going to be
It really
huge.
is. Yeah.
But you don't realize because you work initiative or project to project and you're just checking a box and you're doing what you should be doing for the outcome, but then you can't
Start
connect
again.
that
Yeah.
exactly.
Start
So
again.
instead of just doing it new, hey, we did this over here. Can we reuse piece of this? Or this is contradicting a business rule over here. Just seeing all of that in a transparent fashion, it's going to make it so much more efficient. That's what
Yeah.
I'm excited about.
Yeah. I agree with you. Connecting the dots as one of those three components that Roger says is so important. And once you see the opportunity to connect the dots, it really does change your perspective and also that traceability, going, let's not waste our time doing things that we've done already. Let's just move on. I had a client, he's they were in Saudi Arabia and they were the best company I've seen do this. I was so surprised with their ability to actually trace all of their projects back to the source of the organization. And I wasn't expecting it because there's been so many experiences of it not happening. So that was a very nice surprise. All right. So can you share a project or an initiative? I know it's just early days, right? Where you think that the outcomes, the effect of using architecture has changed the outcomes. It doesn't have to be significant, but just certainly the organization a bit more.
Oh, right away. So
Mm,
we added business architecture, and like you said, it is early on. I'm still learning business architecture as we're implementing it. But right away, we started with value instead of certification and then started with the value. So, one of the first things that I jumped into that the company was going on was a new accounting system, for example. So, right there, it was bringing everybody back to the table to go, okay, do we have our charter? Do we have who are the stakeholders? What is our Rossi matrix? That's all business analysis too, but it's at the strategic level because I'm not doing delivery requirements. It's, hey, before we select a system, what are our business requirements? What do we need? And this was new to us. There was nobody in the strategic level that actually knew how to elicit requirements or document them for reuse later, one, but then also before you start to acquire products and applications, start to figure out why the business needs it. So this was an eye opener for a lot of people just because it touches all different departments and accounting system to really make them aware of business architecture
mm,
and then know what we need before now we're going to start interviewing for the system. So I know it sounds fun, like foundational to a lot of people out there, but some organizations, you don't have that structure yet.
mm.
So to actually start that has been really helpful.
I think that's where business analysts have a good part to play in that transition with architecture because often it just goes straight to solution architecting. Whereas if you're not solving the overall business problem and truly understanding it and analyzing it, and this is where architecture gives you the kind of knowledge base, but wow, you end up just running off with different solutions all the time, which can be a real struggle.
That really
Um,
helped to start the architecture. So for
mm,
anybody starting out at their company, building their architecture from nothing, that alone also helped deep dive. So you say the mile wide, inch deep of your architecture to start with. Then I could really start drilling in and do capability overlays, value streams with those departments as we started defining those needs. So that's your validation with the business, but we're doing it as we're providing value. That was really helpful.
awesome. That's awesome. Where do you see architecture in the next 5 years? So it's been around for a while, but it's taken, well, I don't know if we've crossed the chasm yet, but what do you see in the next 5 years?
Since I am so new to it, I'll be honest, I don't even know. I know where it's at right now, but I have heard where it's come, how far it's come. My hope, if anything, if I can have hope, is that, like you said, you cross over that chasm and there's going to be more adopters, there's going to be more awareness. That's going to
Mm,
be key for businesses to already have that awareness. So it's not like trudging through mud to try to explain it, the value. But that would be my hope.
mm, mm. I agree with you. I think that having the ability to, and I often say this even with AI, if you don't have the option to see how the whole architecture works, using AI will just be exactly like we do in projects, which would be correcting the dots, as you've mentioned, um, necessarily connecting the dots. This is where I see business architecture is working with technology to actually help bring those three facets together. And so, what is your view on AI or any of those tools and what you're doing in your career?
AI for personally, for me, for business architecture and analyst, it helps our role
Mm.
to get information in front of us that we can quicker analyze, that
Yeah.
we can, so it doesn't do it. For example, I've used it to, hey, what are some objective of key results? I'm sorry, like OKRs, right? So if we have this objective and we're in this type of industry, give me some examples of what department OKRs can be aligned to that. So that's just one example of it would go list out as, oh, I didn't even think about those. Oh, that's not for our organization. But at least it gives you information that you may have not thought of to then dive into. And that's the same for architecture when I was doing the value streams, the capabilities, as I know you've shown too, that you can do that. But as far as, so that's me personally. Overall, I'm really in the field that I think it's going to help us be faster,
Mm.
but it's not going to take away our job just
Agree.
because we still need the people to actually think, is this right or wrong
Mm.
for my customer, for my business? So,
Mm. Yeah, I certainly don't see it as a role replacer, but rather a role enabler because, man, do we have to go through a lot of data. So much.
yes.
And getting a bot to do that would be super helpful to get through that data a lot quicker. Or in your current role, do you see any key challenges or opportunities that might present themselves in the near future?
So, challenges first is awareness. Like I was saying, hopefully that'll help in the future, but it does take time to do the human piece of business architecture to go, this is what we're here for. We're not here to dive in. That's been leads me into the challenge between moving from business analysis to business architecture is it's not as fast paced.
Yeah.
Change takes a lot longer at the
Hmm.
strategic level to get buy off. Um, but also what I frame it in my mind is as a business architect, I frame the why and enable the how. So
Mm.
I can help them see the details of why, and then our business analyst or whatnot can take it from there. But that was a challenge for me, just moving, if I may, from one to the next. And then opportunities. I'm excited for the opportunities. Like I said, we're just starting off, but even if we weren't, there's so many opportunities out there. One that I'm working on is standing up a VMO, value management office,
Oh,
like,
nice.
but it's going to be piece by piece, right? So you can't just throw an elephant at a leadership team and go, here you go, we're changing everything. Prioritizing myself and what can change and where, and strategic alignment of the initiatives, making overall strategic planning changes, the visuals. We had them in department levels and project levels uh, previously, but I'm trying to bring that to the strategic level so that we can see, like we were talking about earlier, what does business architecture bring? Is if we did need to change on a dime to see in a visual, this is what the business is working on, this is what we need to change and move. And so standing all that up is going to be amazing opportunity.
Awesome. All right. What skills, tools, or competencies people, let's say three, just choose three, and we'll start with competencies as the major one, people will need to architect? What are those things that you feel would be the most valuable?
The growth mindset for one, and ability to collaborate is huge. You cannot do business architecture in a bubble. You are there to enable other people, which I it's not a skill, I think, in the biz BizBox or whatnot, but I did want to bring up that one that I believe is needed to be a business architect is that you don't have to be the one that always gets the praise. There's people that they have to be the one get the pat on the back to say this was so and so's idea. That is really important to them. A business architect is not that. You may get thanks here and there from people, but a business architect is an enabler for others in the business, for other leaders to make good decisions and have them look good, have the business look good. So I just want to bring that out as a big one for me, that if you're one that has to be in front and get the kudos all the time, it may not be for you, but
Mhm. That's good advice because you have to work and collaborate, I agree, with multiple stakeholders, and everyone has different opinions, and ensuring that they're on board, that they, means that the work that they're doing in that transition as well matters just as much as helping with the architecting. But yeah, I agree with you on that.
yeah, because the business architect is what's an enabler, but we have an outcome. We're
Yeah,
there to make things more efficient, right? So that's just a huge piece of it is, yep, collaborating.
bringing it together. Yeah.
Yes.
If you could give some advice to your younger self, what would that be?
To my younger self, I've heard this a lot in different people say go back and change this or that. And I love this question because personally, I wouldn't change anything. The advice that I would give myself is trust yourself and enjoy the journey. Because everything that I have learned, highs and lows, have led me to where I'm at. So actually believing in myself that, okay, you're going through this for a reason and it's going to set you up for success later. It may be a hard time that you're going through now. You don't see the struggles that you're in, but those struggles develop the need that makes you research a better way to become better or make a better change for you, for the business, for your department. So, all of it, that's absolutely what I would say is trust yourself and enjoy the journey.
Thank you. I think that I don't know if it's about not that you are old, but I think that becomes more obvious that you got to where you are today because of all those things that you learned. It's actually a learning journey and had to adapt to, and learning new things is actually quite fun if you take it the right way, not if you necessarily um, see it as a chore or something that's going to hold you back in any way. Okay, so do you have any further advice that you could give to anyone else who's entering the career, especially now that you have gone through the process yourself recently? Is there any particular tips that you'd like to share with others?
Dig in and learn. And most importantly, I would say lead with value, be outcome focused. So even if you're just starting out, I have imposter syndrome. So, yep, it's there. But believe in yourself
Mm.
and start doing the work. Research it out there just enough, just in time to show the value, to learn what you need to do to move forward, to progress forward. That's best advice I can say.
Good advice. I think a lot of us have suffered from imposter syndrome. I think females more than males, to be fair. But I think everybody struggles with it in some form. And I think that's just because IT has just evolved so rapidly over the last few years that you have to really figure stuff out as you go along, which can be really challenging because you think, oh, I don't know that yet. But you probably know more than somebody else. And that is part of that learning journey.
And another piece to that, I think, if I may, is
Yeah, go for it.
to know which hill you want to die on.
Hmm.
So What I mean by that is, especially when you're learning. When I was going through the business analysis and then now the business architecture, everything is important. We have to change a bunch of things. But if I go into every meeting and say that this is a hill I'm dying on, this is a change we have to have now, they're going to stop listening to me because everything is always high priority and it's just so overwhelming, right? So sometimes being that enabler, right? Stepping back and go, okay, I'm going to help you do what you need to do when you need to do it. But then there's other times, then it is more impactful when you do come with the major change and why, then it's a big to do, right? And you will enable that change. That's just another one is don't die on every hill because people will stop listening to you.
Another question, what resources do you think that people would need? So, in other words, someone wanting to enter the field, okay, so the imposter syndrome is a challenge, and I agree with you. You're going to have to learn to hold back some of your comments and feedback to other people. Definitely, you'll have to build a relationship. But what should people do who enter in the field? What resources, what links, what is your process to really feel like you're ready for the next stage? What would that be?
I would say it's, of course, the BizBot guide,
Mm.
right? There's things out there, but to chunk it down, I think we're not saying any specific training, but I found Agora helpful in that you had that study guide that had the important pieces of the BizBox. And I'm just saying, from my point of view, that was helpful to me to learn the most important in a readable format that condensed it down. So having that knowledge at my fingertips that I could go through any section I needed at a certain time was very helpful. Another one is going to be the networking. The
Yeah.
people on LinkedIn is a great place, but the just enough, just in time learning. You're on there, a bunch of different business architects are on there sharing
Yeah, Wendy
knowledge snippets.
and
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. And then
Wolfgang and various others.
a whole bunch of them. And then just they'll share articles they've done, just short and sweet, or the courses. You can take a 1 hour webinar. But the networking was huge for me to get into it.
And when you first got the job title of business architect, did that excite you, or did you go, "Oh, that's weird"?
No, it was really exciting.
Hmm.
And I say that with a little asterisk because you get excited and then you go, oh my gosh, I have so much to learn. There's so
Yeah.
much to do.
But that also leads you on that path of learning because the motivation really does help. So what are the key things that you are planning to do in the short term? I know you mentioned you guest speaker. How would people get hold of you if they have any additional questions? What does that look like in the short term?
Right now, best way to contact me is on LinkedIn. Just Breanne Casteel in there. What I'm doing in the short term is in March, I'll be at the Business Architecture Guild Summit. I'm giving a presentation on the first year journey for business architecture. So
Good, good.
really excited for that one. And then in April, I will be at BBC, the IABA conference,
Yeah.
speaking on the unexpected benefits of business rules. So that's going to
Mm.
be, I'm excited for that one too. So both of those are coming up in the spring.
Those are great conferences. I've been debating going, especially to the Guild one. It was one of the best that I went to initially, but it's just so far from New Zealand for a couple of days. But I think that's a great topic to bring to the Guild members. A lot of people are very interested and would bring that out. And if you ever do decide to put that online as well, I think it'll be very helpful for our team and those who are going through learning just generally. So I encourage you to, if you feel like it, make that leap. But congratulations on that. So, Breanne, I think that's it for today. But if you do have anything else you'd like to share with the community, looking forward to any links, any posts, or just the outcomes of what you've discovered as you continue on your journey. So thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it very much. And
Thank
I'm
you.
sure we'll chat soon.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.